Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to discuss my most anticipated new book releases that are all due to come out in October, November, and December 2024. We are looking ahead to the books of this final quarter of the year, the ones that will bring us up to the holiday season, through the holidays, and then we'll close out this year, as hard as that is to believe. I have some great ones to tell you about, so let's get started. We'll start with October, the first month of this quarter, and the official start of the spooky season, which I fully embrace. On the first of the month, there are a pair of nonfiction books coming out that caught my eye. The first one is called The Witch's Door: Oddities and Tales from the Esoteric to the Extreme by Ryan Matthew Cohn and Regina M. Rossi. This is a memoir written by the founders of the Oddities Flea Market, a traveling market that has all different vendors, but what those vendors all have in common is that they sell very weird, macabre things. And then the founders of this market are also collectors of those types of strange objects. And in this book, they tell the stories behind some of those objects that they own. We have a store that sells that kind of stuff here in Pittsburgh. It's called The Weeping Glass. It's in our Allentown neighborhood. And every so often they hold a night market, they call it, which is kind of similar to the Oddities Flea Market. You can browse and buy all sorts of weird stuff. I love going to it. I have some stuff from the Weeping Glass and from the night market scattered around my reading room, so I am definitely part of the target audience for this memoir. Also on the 1st of October, a memoir called The Flitting, a memoir of fathers, sons, and butterflies by Ben Masters will be coming out. In this book, the author talks about how, as his father was slowly dying, he decided to adopt his father's passion for nature and for butterflies. The author himself would go out into nature and see the butterflies, which was something that his father used to love to do when he was physically capable of doing so, but could no longer. So the son decided to do it for him. He decided to engage in his father's passion so that they could bond over that in his father's last days. This sounds so beautiful and, of course, absolutely heartbreaking. There's another pair of nonfiction books coming out on the 8th of October. The first of that pair is called Dear Unknown Friend: The Remarkable Correspondence Between American and Soviet Women by Alexis Perry. This is an exploration of pen pal relationships between American and Soviet women at the height of the Cold War. It seems to have been initiated so that these women could see one another as friends versus enemies, which is definitely what citizens were encouraged to see the other people as at the height of the Cold War. The countries were not friends at that time. And from what I'm seeing about this book, it seems like these women began to realize that they had a lot more in common with one another than they may have originally thought. If you don't know anything about me, I am a bit of a Russian/Soviet history buff, so of course this one intrigued me. Another October 8th release that spoke to me because of my interests is Play Nice: The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment by Jason Schreier. This is by probably the #1 journalist in video games. Like, he is so fantastic at what he does. He's written 2 other books on video games, but this new one is about the video game company Blizzard, who is behind games such as StarCraft, Diablo, Overwatch, and probably most notably, World of Warcraft. He talks about the company from its creation to the present day and all the turbulence in between. I'm married to a gamer. I play some video games myself, mainly when I have time. I have played World of Warcraft on and off over the years, and I know about some of the drama going on at Blizzard, mainly because I hear about it from my husband. But to have a deep dive like this, written by someone who really knows what he's talking about, this is a must-read for me. On the following Tuesday, October 15th, we will move from Playing Nice to Playing Possum: How Animals Understand Death by Susanna Monceau. This seems to be a kind of Mary Roach style book that will tell stories about how different species of animals react to death and to the dying, and what those different things might tell us about the natural world. I don't know why this is, but I love morbid books, and of course, I also love books about nature, so this is kind of the perfect combination for me. On that note, let me tell you about another October 15th release. This one is called What Lies Beneath: My Life as a Forensic Search and Rescue Expert by Peter Falding, which is the memoir of a British man who spent an entire career recovering bodies, finding remains, taking on dangerous rescue missions, and more. I can't even imagine the types of stories that are going to be in this book. The 15th seems like it's going to be one of those really big release dates of the quarter because I have 2 more coming out on that day that I want to tell you about, including Linguophile, A Life of Language Love by Julie Sedevi. This was written by a linguist, and it seems to be part memoir, but also part essay on language and language acquisition. And the entire thing seems like it's going to be a celebration of language and how much the author loves it. I am a word nerd myself, so this book sounds like a big hug. The last 15th release I wanted to mention is called The Absinthe Forger, a true story of deception, betrayal, and the world's most dangerous spirit by Evan Rail. This is a work of true crime about how an eccentric con man blew up the black market with counterfeit absinthe. I mean, just absinthe by itself could command its own book. That stuff will send you into a different dimension. But then you throw this bonkers story on top of it. I have got to get my hands on this book. To close out the month of October, there are 2 final releases, both coming out on the 29th that I wanted to mention. The first one is on that same alcohol topic we were just on, except it's called Firebrands, The Untold Story of 4 Women Who Made and Unmade Prohibition by Gioia De Liberto. This book shines a spotlight on 4 women who were on both sides of the prohibition issue during the Jazz Age. It seems like this book is going to be kind of a liar, temptress, soldier, spy, except we're looking at the 1920s versus the Civil War era. But the final October release I wanted to talk about is actually the very first novel on this anticipated releases list. Can you tell I'm primarily a nonfiction reader? But this novel sounded so good, I absolutely had to talk about it. It's called Masquerade by Mike Fu. This is advertised as a coming-of-age mystery about a lovelorn bartender and his complex friendship with a volatile artist. It's set in both New York City and Shanghai, and early reviewers have used words like lush, dreamlike, ethereal to describe this one, which is what sold me on it. Moving on to the month of November, we'll stick with fiction just for a moment because the first of 2 November 5th releases on my list is another novel. It's called Eleanor of Avignon by Elizabeth de Lazier. This is a work of historical fiction about a woman who becomes the apprentice to the Pope's physician during a very dangerous moment in medieval European history. When I read the synopsis for this one, I was immediately reminded of Matrix by Lauren Groff, which I loved. I just have a really good feeling about this one. November 5th will also bring us Chain Reactions, A Hopeful History of Uranium by Lucy Jane Santos. This book tells stories surrounding the history of the element uranium. I read and really enjoyed this author's previous book. It was a book all about radium a few years back, so I was really excited to see that she had a similar one coming out. The next new release Tuesday in November will be the 12th. There are 2 more books coming out on that day that I wanted to mention. One of those is called Vanishing Treasures, a bestiary of extraordinary endangered creatures by Catherine Rundell. And in this book, we will be presented with an abundance of unusual animals that have nearly been wiped off the face of the planet. Some will be familiar to us, others I imagine will be less familiar to us. And from what I hear about this book, it seems like it's equal parts conversational and educational, which sounds like the perfect kind of nonfiction book. The cover of the other November 12th release I'm going to talk about matches up with Vanishing Treasures so perfectly. You would think I planned it that way, but I actually didn't. It just works out so perfectly. It is called Shy Creatures by Claire Chambers. This one is a novel, and it's about how a mute, unkempt man is discovered living in the home of his sick elderly aunt, and no one seems to know anything about him until he begins working with an art therapist who discovers some hidden talents and also some secrets. This one is getting fantastic reviews already. One book that I already know is going to be massively popular comes out on November 19th. It is the newest book from Robin Wall Kimmerer, author of Braiding Sweetgrass. Her new one is going to be called The Serviceberry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural Worlds. And it seems like the way that she used sweetgrass as a symbol in her previous book, Braiding Sweetgrass, it seems like she's going to do something similar in this book, except, you guessed it, it's going to be about the serviceberry, which I don't know a lot about. But I know this book is going to be incredibly thought-provoking and gorgeous, just like her last book. I imagine I will be seeing this one on more than a few Nonfiction November TBRs. The other November 19th release that I was drawn to is called Family Romance, John Singer Sargent and the Wertheimers by Jean Strauss. This book tells the history behind several different John Singer Sargent portraits, the family they depicted, the man who commissioned them, and his friendship with John Singer Sargent, along with a grander history of the times in which they were painted. When I read the synopsis for this book, it reminded me so much of another nonfiction book that I absolutely loved called Strapless by Deborah Davis. This one is so similar sounding that I couldn't put it on my TBR fast enough. Then on to the final new release Tuesday in November the 26th, which will bring us Accidental Shepherd, How a California Girl Rescued an Ancient Mountain Farm in Norway by Lisa Greenfelder. This is the memoir of an American woman who at age 20 took on a summer job on this remote, old-fashioned Norwegian farm. She was going to be taking over for the farmer after he was hospitalized after suffering from a stroke, while that short-term gig turned into a year. And during that year, she did her best to connect with the community, to revitalize this farm. This just sounds incredible. City of Nightbirds by Joo-Hae Kim is the other November 26th release I wanted to mention. This is the new book from the author of Beasts of a Little Land, which is a novel I want to read. It is on my never-ending, always expanding TBR. Just haven't gotten around to reading that one yet, but her new one is already out. And the main character of this one is a renowned Russian prima ballerina. She was at the top of her game until she was injured in a terrible accident, after which she got hooked on alcohol and drugs. But 2 years after that accident, she is looking to make a comeback. So as she's endeavoring to do that, we hear about it, but also we hear about her initial rise to prominence as she's recalling it, so we get those flashbacks. I feel like I've read a lot about Russian ballerinas over the years, but as I was thinking back on those books, all of those ballerinas were prominent in Imperial Russia when this one takes place in 2019. But now we move into the month of December, which is, as always, just a quieter month within the publishing world. There are a total of 5 December releases on my list that I wanted to talk about, 2 of which come out on the 3rd. The first one, on the topic of Russia, is The Last Tsar, The Abdication of Nicholas II and the Fall of the Romanovs by Tsuyoshi Hasegawa. This is a new history about the self-destruction of the Romanov dynasty and the man at the helm when it all happened. This just so happens to be my favorite period in Russian history, the one I find the most interesting, the fall of the Romanovs, and then the revolution, or revolutions, I should say. This was written by a professor at UC Santa Barbara. His specialty is Russian history, but I've never read any of his work before. So I'm actually really curious to see how he handles a topic I know a heck of a lot about. Also on the 3rd, Ingrained, The Making of a Craftsman by Callum Robinson will hit shelves. This is a memoir in which a Scottish carpenter works on his craft, builds his own business. I read a different memoir called Hammerhead by Nina McLaughlin a number of years ago. That was a book all about how a woman became an apprentice to a carpenter with 0 experience, and that book definitely got me interested in this topic. But then Ingrained is advertised as being for fans of H is for Hawk. And I felt personally targeted by that marketing. The latter half of the year always seems to be celebrity memoir season, which I always half pay attention to. If I really like a celebrity and or their work and they have a book coming out, then I'll sometimes consider picking one up. But there is one coming out on December 10th that intrigued me. It's called Inheriting Magic by Jennifer Love Hewitt, the actress Jennifer Love Hewitt. This is a memoir about her life and her family, like how she lost her mother to cancer. I've always really liked Jennifer Love Hewitt. I love the movie Heartbreakers. And this is so short, I feel like I could read this in a day. But I have heard in this book she barely discusses her career, which is, I feel like, a really important part of what I like out of a good celebrity memoir. I like that behind the scenes info. So it's disappointing to hear that this doesn't have it. But again, because it's so short, I think I'll still give it a try. The last novel on this list comes out on Christmas Eve, the 24th. It is called The Resurrectionist by A. Ray Dunlap. This is a Gothic historical novel set in 19th century Scotland, in which we follow a young medical student who is lured into the world of grave robbing. That was a real phenomenon back then, and I've read about it in a number of those more macabre nonfiction books that I love so much, so it'll be interesting seeing that brought to life in this new novel. My finally anticipated release on this list, and of the entire year, fittingly comes out on the last day of 2024, December 31st. That book is called Sisters in Science: How 4 Women Physicists Escaped Nazi Germany and Made Scientific History by Olivia Campbell. In this book, we follow 4 women, all distinguished in their fields, and they were forced to flee Nazi Germany because of either having Jewish ancestry or having anti-Nazi sentiments. This author was kind enough to send me a copy of her last book, which was called Women in White Coats, which I went on to really enjoy, so putting her newest book on my TBR was a no-brainer. So those were my most anticipated releases of this last quarter of 2024. These are just the ones that I am the most excited about. These definitely aren't all of the new releases for the next 3 months. There are so many books that come out every single Tuesday. I couldn't possibly list them all, even if I wanted to. So if there are any that you are really hyped about that come out over this next 3-month stretch that I didn't mention in this video, please let me know what those are down in the comment section below. Also, let me know if any of the books on my list spoke to you. Did you add any of them to your TBR? I always love to hear that. All of the books that I did speak about today will be listed and linked for you in the description box below for your clicking convenience. And also in the description box, I've listed the videos I made about my most anticipated releases of the previous 3 quarters for 2024, just in case you missed any of those, or if you're interested in going back and rewatching them now that most, if not all of those books should be out in the world ready to be read. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.